Hi, welcome to Weekend Review, where we catch up on some of the news making headlines and look at some of the stories we have coming up in the days ahead. It's Inauguration Day, beautiful day outside. I'm guessing the president's getting ready to probably address the nation right now. Let's get right to it. Ben, in the lead up to the inauguration, you've spent several weeks on the road, and for the last several days we've been kind of letting people know about what Oklahomans think about their next leader. Talk a little bit about what you found in the Road Ahead series.
Yeah, the Road Ahead series, a 6-part series. We started last Sunday and ran every day up until Inauguration Day today. And so obviously a lot of Trump support here in Oklahoma. He won the state solidly, won every single county in the state. But the interesting thing to me was, people are complex. People have complex views of politics and their worldview. But every 4 years, they're kind of asked to put that complexity aside and pick usually one of two candidates. And so we really wanted to kind of get on the road and visit different types of communities, and not just talk to them about about who they voted for. We really wanted to look ahead. What is it about the Trump presidency that has you hopeful, excited, anxious, nervous, whatever it might be, particularly through the lens of your specific community? So the series started with a trip to Guyman, Oklahoma Panhandle town that's been kind of transformed over the last 20 years due to immigration, and talking to people kind of on both sides of that issue. Trump obviously made immigration one of the hallmarks of his campaign. You talk to those who are immigrants, both undocumented and documented, who said that they were kind of nervous and a lot of anxiety about what the Trump presidency will bring. And you had Trump supporters who said, we don't necessarily agree with him on immigration because we see what it's done for our community and the good it's brought us, but we're not really worried. We're kind of looking at some of the other points that he's trying to make, and don't think immigration is going to be that big of a deal. And so, that's one extreme. Spent some time in North Tulsa, a predominantly black community. That's kind of put on the national map of controversial police shootings over the last several years. Residents there that have, kind of flat out said that they feel like a targeted group. And then you've got places like Elk City, an oil and gas town that feels like they have a lot of hope in Trump, and particularly the appointments he's making, Scott Pruitt from Oklahoma as his EPA director. So just, the state is more diverse than it might appear when you look at a simple red and blue precinct map. I mean, a lot of Trump support here, obviously. And so there's a lot of Oklahomans today who are welcoming the presidency of Trump. But even Trump supporters have some of their concerns or questions, or are kind of in a wait-and-see attitude.
And it's a great project, has great video that goes along with it, great photography as well. If you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. It's at newsok.com. Pick up today's paper. You can read today's story. Anyway, it's a great introduction into the Trump presidency from an Oklahoma viewpoint.
Yeah, and I think, post-election there was a lot of talk about, what's the role of journalists in this? And did journalism do as good of a job of really connecting with voters, particularly in Middle America? And I think that's kind of debatable, but, one of the roles I think we have as a local newspaper is we have that opportunity to do on-the-ground reporting and really kind of determine what is it that our readers, the residents of our community, what are their specific thoughts. And so I think this is a project that is not only, we're excited to do as we usher into a new era with a new president, but it's just kind of an example and a reminder of we've got that opportunity to really connect with people. Political reporting happens inside the Capitol, and it also happens in the coffee shops and in the towns that are dotted across the state. Absolutely.
And tomorrow, be sure to pick up tomorrow's Oklahoman to see all of our coverage of today's inaugural events. Nolan, let's talk about what's going on over at the State House. There's a little bit of a scandal percolating over there in the last few weeks over some racy photos. What's going on?
Well, there's a special committee that's of the House that's investigating sexual harassment accusations that turns out have been made by two former assistants about Representative Dan Kirby, a Republican, and they're also investigating accusations that a Democrat, Will Forkiller, harassed a page, high school page, in April of 2015. The stuff about Representative Kirby is certainly serious. The second woman came forward and spoke to us this week and alleged that she was harassed and that there were nude photos that he repeatedly asked for and that she complied with to basically keep the peace. She showed me some of these text messages where he asked for new pics. She said it was him asking. And so I called him up and asked him, and he started saying, well, the second woman, we were in a relationship, which the woman denies, and she voluntarily sent me pics. And I said, did you, sir, ask for nude photos? And after a while, he conceded that he had asked for nude photos from her. So the committee's going to keep investigating. Representative Kirby likely will appear before the committee next week. The other representative has declined to, and they'll issue a report probably by the end of the month, and they could recommend disciplinary action against Representative Kirby or Representative Forkiller.
Has the second woman who came forward given any reason as to why now? What brought her forward to make?
Well, she complained to the House Human Resources in September, and I have independent verification that she did actually file a complaint. It didn't become public because it was a personnel matter. She was put on paid leave and then was reassigned and then left the House for other family reasons, she says. And she never filed a tort claim or filed anything with the EEOC, which is how we learned about the first woman. She decided to come forward, she says, now, because she wants the committee to know what happened to her. So, as she says, so it doesn't happen to anybody else, and that they might help better inform their decision on what to recommend to the House, which she thinks should be Representative Kirby's expulsion.
And then there's been some debate about how the committee hearings have been held. Some folks are not happy with the fact that these are closed sessions, essentially.
The Republicans are in control of the House. They're in the majority. The committee's made of 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats. All 3 Democrats have declined to participate, 2 very vocally because of the closed sessions, the other one because of the closed sessions and other reason. And the minority leader yesterday asked the Attorney General for an opinion on whether it's legal to have these meetings in closed session. Now, the Republican in charge of the committee says, that we have to do this way. We're not trying to protect lawmakers. We're protecting witnesses and victims. So,
I would ask, how are they protecting victims and witnesses if the victims and witnesses are known publicly and their testimony is pretty much what they've said in the hearings is made public? How is that?
We don't know who the page is. That was one of the big things they were trying to protect, particularly since she was a minor and still may be a minor.
Yeah.
Believed to be a minor. She could have been 18. But they're trying to protect her identity. And these women, it's very uncomfortable for them to say. The lady who spoke to me was very uncomfortable describing what happened to her, and I think there's some belief that if they had to say what happened to them in front of everybody, that it would discourage other employees, if this happened to them, from coming forward.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it's a story we'll continue to keep an eye on. So, Don, an area publishing company also finding itself in a little hot water these days. What's the latest on Tate Publishing?
Yeah, Tate Publishing is basically a vanity press that's been in business out in Mustang for more than 15 years. Authors who are unable to get published any other way, they go to this company and they pay to have their books published. They sign contracts with Tate Publishing, and they're in the agreements. If the books turn out to be a success, you can share in the profits. But Tate's had a lot of issues over the years. Right now, in recent years, they've been sued by Xerox, which was their printing firm. They've had equipment, taken back by Xerox. The company's actually agreed that they owe Xerox a bunch of money. The company that they replaced Xerox with for their printing services has now also sued them, so that they owe them a lot of money as well, and they're just not paying their bills. Tate Publishing kind of came to our attention a few years ago because the CEO, Ryan Tate, it's a family company. Ryan Tate had a meeting with his employees where he was basically laying off some people because he was outsourcing some of their operations to the Philippines. And one of the workers taped the meeting. Well, Ryan Tate began it with a prayer. One of their big things is that we're a Christian company and they have a lot of ideals that they point to. But he started with a prayer, and then he began to berate his own employees, and then he fired some of them, and he called them things like morons, and accused them of being disloyal, and later told us that he was planning to sue some of them. I don't think that ever came about, but it was a remarkable 18 or 20-minute tape of a guy going from prayer to anger to threats and then to firing people. So that's how they came to our attention. And over the years, we've heard from a lot of people who are not happy who work there. I mean, I've talked to people who do say it's a nice place to work as well, I should point out. And we've also seen a lot of complaints from their customers, filed with the Better Business Bureau, filed with the State Attorney General's Consumer Office, and also online. A lot of these authors who deal with vanity publishing firms, they get on chats and forums and things, and they talk about this is a good one, this is a bad one, and we've seen a lot of complaints about Tate there. And so now, as they're getting ready to proceed in this case with Xerox and the other company, Ryan Tate says we're basically winding down our operations. Their website went down for a couple of days, and when it came back up, it said we're no longer going to sign any new authors or artists, and if you want, here's a couple of things you can sign to sort of close our deal, and they're saying we're not going to give you any more money, and he says they're just going to shut everything down. And they apparently already have shut everything down in the Philippines, where they had some of their work outsourced.
And it's left some of their customers in the lurch, right? I mean, there are people who are contending that, hey, either I've paid some money and haven't got what I'm owed.
Right.
And if I understood correctly from the story today, there was a reference on that website that basically said, if you want to basically agree to just call it quits, you surrender any chance you may have of getting any of your money or product back.
Yeah, there were two different documents that you could sign, and both of them basically gave up any claim to future profits and there's a profit sharing deal with the company, and so it sounds like they may not be able to pay those. And we've also had talked to authors who have paid for their books. You tend to, with these deals, you buy books from Tate Publishing, and they haven't been shipped their books. They don't know when they're going to get their books. I talked to a lady yesterday who said, my book title is up on Amazon.com, and my friends are trying to order it, and they're trying to buy books from me, and I don't have any books. So there's a lot of loose ends still left to be tied up.
Probably a lot of unhappy customers as well.
Right.
So we'll be keeping an eye on that one as well. The kind of stories that you can see every day on newsok.com. Pick up a paper, you can read them. People like Nolan Clay, a veteran of this market, knows the legal system here and the people who are involved in it better probably than anybody in town. You can't get that insight anyplace else. Same with Ben in politics or education. Don's been around forever covering this stuff. I don't think anybody knows more about business in Oklahoma City than Don. Check us out. Look forward to having you read the News OK and read the Oklahoman and respond. Let us know what you think about it. We'll see you next week.